What's up guys, Wade here, welcome back to my channel. It's time to talk about one of 2023's most anticipated video games, and that of course is Dead Space for PS5. This is a remake of the 2008 horror classic by EA Redwood Shores. Motive Studio took the reins here with EA still publishing. I bought the original game for PS3 back in 2008, heck I even have the Amazon receipt to prove it. I was fresh out of high school and I had recently purchased a PlayStation 3, so it was one of my first games on the system. It was a truly terrifying experience and a game that stuck with me for a very long time. After playing the disappointing Callisto Protocol recently, see the card above to hear my thoughts on that game, I was craving a true horror title, one that could engross me in its world and scare my pants off. Luckily, my pants were scared completely off when I began to play Dead Space Remake. Now obviously the story is essentially the same. You play as Isaac Clarke in the 26th century, on board a mining ship called the USG Ishimura in deep space. Pretty soon you're being haunted by mutated human corpses that have come to life as alien-like creatures called Necromorphs. Armed with a plasma cutter and a plethora of other weapons like a flamethrower and plasma rifle, and hey, you even get telekinesis, which is fun because you can grab items around you and hurl them at your enemies. And it's especially cool if you can find an explosive. So you're forced to face these monstrosities as you try to uncover the mystery behind them. At first you're there with your crew and you even find some survivors along the way. But the game does a great job of isolating the player and making it feel like you're the only one there. The enemy variety is pretty good with different types of necromorphs. Some walk, some run, some fly, some crawl. They come at you in nearly every way possible. You're focused on dismembering them, first and foremost. But with all the different weapons, there are still multiple ways you can approach the combat. There are some boss fights with larger and more menacing foes, and I found that to be a good break from the standard enemies you constantly come across. But I really like the combat and the enemy variety in the game overall. This is what I wanted Callisto Protocol to be. Now I understand that's a separate game, but I'm talking about the gameplay and horror aspects specifically. This game has such a solid gameplay and the game design as a whole. It's fun to play, it runs at 60 frames, everything feels super smooth. It's a big step up from the PlayStation 3 iteration. The lighting is absolutely incredible and it makes a huge difference for the atmosphere. And speaking of atmosphere, this has some of the best in the horror genre. The original was already fantastic, but with the power of the PS5, we now get an experience that is closer to what the developers originally wanted. As scary as the original was, this one ups the scare factor in every way possible. And the sound design is phenomenal. The score is probably the best in a horror game ever. It literally blows my mind. A fantastic horror film I watched recently was It Follows, which I've seen several times by now. And what made that such a scary experience was the music. Much like that, Dead Space nails that aspect of the experience. As the monsters are bearing down on you, the music gets even more frantic. Even when you're walking down a corridor, it's there, lurking in the background, much like the monsters themselves. And visually, it's a stunning game and one of the prettiest we have seen on the system. We can now see Isaac's face too, giving him more of a personality. I don't know how I feel about his face, personally. To me it looks kinda goofy. But nonetheless, it's cool that we now can put a face to the name. And if you look on YouTube at some of the graphics comparisons from PS3 to PS5, it's simply astounding at what they were able to accomplish. Overall, I could not be happier with Dead Space Remake. I just can't put the game down. It constantly reels me in. It's simply one of the best horror video game experiences you can have. It deserved a remake, and it got one. Now, let's get a remake for Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3 because those games were also fantastic and they also deserve remakes. So guys, those are my thoughts on Dead Space Remake. Have you played it? What are your thoughts on it? Be sure to sound off in the comments below. And if you're enjoying my content, be sure to hit the subscribe button below and ring the bell to stay notified for future videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one.